What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, and today I want to get us ready for the Jets as they take on the Miami Dolphins at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. It is a division matchup, and one, quite frankly, I think we might be able to win and keep a streak going. One thing you could do to keep it going here with Jets Latest is remember, watch these videos, like these videos, subscribe to the channel, and thank you to the 2,500 people who have so far, and tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. Also, if you want to be a Jets Latest insider, click on that join button at the bottom there. You can get exclusive content, all sorts of other perks as we go throughout the 2025 season and beyond. But let's get ready here for Sunday. Like I said, I do think it's something we can win, and we've been talking about this week, kind of balancing getting wins for the culture, for the development, for building the kind of muscles there, the winning habits versus draft position, right? You know my point of view on this. I want to get wins. Do I think we're going to win out? No, but I do think we need to stack some bricks, like we say in the comments all the time. So with that said, let's check in first on the injury report for Sunday against the Dolphins. Our injuries are all on the defensive side of the ball, okay? The offensive side looks pretty good, looks pretty healthy. Nobody listed as questionable there. On the defensive side, though, Jarvis Brownlee is going to be out for this game, our slot nickel corner. So that'll mean it's really just Stevens and A.Z. Thomas on the outside. The pass rush is also pretty much questionable. Jermaine Johnson listed as questionable and Will McDonald listed as questionable, both with ankles, and then Tony Adams in the secondary as well, questionable with a groin injury. Good news, though, that I do want to talk about here. Chris Boyd. Remember how he was shot in an incident coming outside of a nightclub about a month ago? He went back to the team facility, kind of surprised his teammates, and that was a nice little boost for them, okay? It's been less than a month, so it's great to see him out of the hospital and visiting his teammates at the facility. He did that earlier in the week, and look what Jermaine Johnson had to say. He goes, I've had friends that didn't survive gunshot wounds, so to be able to see him walk around with a smile on his face, be able to talk with him, I mean, it is always a blessing. Us here at Jets Latest, we talked about this when it happened. We are very glad to see Chris Boyd back and up and at the team facility. We send our well wishes there. On the Miami side, they are relatively healthy, okay? 2 injuries, just kind of note that guys that are questionable. Their slot corner, Rasul Douglas, similar to our slot corner, Jarvis Brownlee. He's questionable with a foot injury, and their fullback, Alec Ingold, is also questionable. And Ingold does some things for them, okay? But the Dolphins seem pretty healthy. Our injuries really are on the defensive side, really primarily on that line and on that pass rush. So we'll see if we get to Tua Tagovailoa. But relatively, I mean, you know, we're going into week 14 of the season, right? I mean, everybody is a little bit banged up. But our offensive line is good. Our offense is good. And on offense, I really think this is going to be the Jets running the ball effectively and efficiently against the Miami Dolphins. Remember what happened earlier in the season, right? We ran for, I think it was something like 190 yards. There was no resistance. Even remember Justin Fields had that 40-yard touchdown scramble. We ran for 7 yards a carry. And I think that means Breece Hall is going to have a big day on Sunday. Remember, the Jets are a top 10 run game. The Jets are top 5 in a lot of places, right? Explosive runs, 43 of them. That is 5th most in the league. They gained the most yards before contact in the NFL at 3.3 a carry. And you put that up against the Dolphins run defense, a Dolphins run defense which is in the bottom 5 in terms of yards allowed per game, over 137 yards a game. They allow explosive runs of 10 or more yards. They allow 4.8 yards a carry. They're also doing worse than usual recently. The Dolphins have allowed 160 or more rushing yards for 3 straight games. That's the first time that's happened in about 25 years for the Miami Dolphins, okay? So the Miami Dolphins defense, run defense, is poor. They allow the big runs, and it's an issue for them right now. So that matches up well with the Jets' run game. I think, listen, Jets aren't going to make the playoffs. If you want to bet some props, the Breece Hall props are interesting. I mean, his rushing prop for the game is 64.5, and his prop for his longest rush of the game stands at 14.5 yards. Okay? Will Breece Hall get a 15-yard carry in this game? I think that's a good bet. When you talk about Breece Hall and the Jets' explosive runs, when you talk about the Dolphins allowing the explosive runs, those are usually of 10 or more. But if he gets rolling, and they do, these Jets offensive linemen move the line of scrimmage, right? Can he get a 15-yard run? I say yes, and I think that's a nice little prop you could play with. Also, Breece Hall, in a game I think the Jets can win. The Jets are 3-0 when Breece Hall scores a touchdown, and it is even money for him to score. a touchdown in this one. So maybe that's another way if you want to bet it, right? One of the things we've been talking about all week, though, is the idea of winning versus the draft position. So one of the things I'm going to be doing here for the rest of the season kind of is showing you where we stand right now, okay? The Jets entering this week have the number 7 overall draft pick, okay? And they're 2.5-point underdogs at home to Miami. So if they lose, let's see what else has to happen, right? The Titans, they're 3.5-point underdogs, but they play the Browns. The Titans and Browns play each other. The Titans have the 1 pick. The Browns have the 5 pick. The Browns are 3.5-point favorites. So if the Browns win that game against Tennessee, they're favored to do so, the Jets could hop them back, right? And, improve their draft position. I do think the Browns will beat the Titans. Then the Saints are the 3rd pick. They're big-time underdogs against the Bucs. The Bucs need that game. The Raiders are the 4th pick. They are big-time underdogs against the Broncos. And then the Commanders, who are right before us, also with 3 wins, they have the Vikings. And the Vikings have not been doing well. McCarthy, concussion protocol. They had some guy, Max Brosmer, come in, look pathetic. They didn't score anything. So the Commanders could get a victory. All right, they are favored. And then the Cardinals, also with 3 wins, they've got the Rams. So that doesn't look good for them. But this Browns-Titans game is certainly going to have an impact, right? That's going to change it. I think we want the Browns to win, because Tennessee is not, we're not going to hop Tennessee anyway. Hopping Cleveland would be pretty good. Also of note, the Giants, who are in there, they're on a bye this week, okay? And when we look at the kind of moving of the draft position, strength of schedule is one of those tiebreakers, and the Jets actually have a good strength of schedule. So that puts them towards the bottom of, like, when they're tied with 3 wins or 4 wins or whatever it might be. But we have the Saints still coming up, so that changes the strength of schedule, and some other games. The Miami game will change their strength of schedule. But that's where it stands right now. The big one to watch if you're looking for the draft positioning are 2 of them, right? First, that Cleveland-Tennessee game, and then I think that Washington-Minnesota game is interesting if you're keeping your eye around the league thinking about the Jets in the draft position. It is 7th right now, but listen, if they beat Miami, they're not falling in the draft, okay? If anything, they're going to hop over teams, and then it brings teams like Miami into play, because Miami only has a couple more wins than the Jets. So that'll do it for here. And by the way, also, I know you're keeping your eye also on the Indianapolis Colts, right? Because we have their pick as well. They've got a tough game. They're at Jacksonville. Those teams are tied right now for the division lead, and Indy's been kind of falling off. So if you also want to cheer, for Jacksonville in that one, which would make the Colts pick a little bit better. And the Colts pick, remember, is our pick this year in the first round. So that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. Remember, like I said, join on the button, subscribe to the channel, tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. I love all you guys. Thank you so much. And I always like to say some of the comments that you guys have on the show. So let's see what some of you Jets Latest regulars have to say. We start with Old Dave 1000, true Jets Latest regular. Winning sustainability comes from belief. The hated Patriots started the season losing to the Raiders, but continued to fight, beating weak teams in close games, and then they became consistent winners. Right, I think it's about flexing that muscle, having those habits, and that's what Aaron Glenn talks about as well. He goes, I'll take every win that I can get and make no apologies for opponent's strength. Just keep winning and building. There you go. I agree with that. The winning habits greater than sign a few draft spots. Harlem Abraham, 77-72, becoming a Jets Latest regular to be sure. Talking about Adonai Mitchell, who we talked about a lot this week, says, we know Mitchell can get separation. It's whether he can hang on to the ball. Getting better in the trenches is important. Jets may get a free agent safety and draft one. Need to get linebackers too. Maybe one as a free agent and draft one. I think the linebackers is less of a need. I like where we are with Sherwood having just resigned. I think we found Kiko in the draft, right? We'll see what happens with Quincy. I do agree safety is going to be a need. Remember, we do have Cisco, who's been hurt for most of the year. We do have Malachi Moore, who's coming on a little bit, right? But I do think when I look at it, the 4 draft picks that we have that are high in the draft, I think it's O-line, D-line, secondary are definitely 3 of them, to be sure. P. Phillip 1 out there says, screw draft position. Tanking is for losers. Drafting ability trumps draft position every time. Winning culture only improves by winning. This is what I am saying. And then he goes, sample size on A.D. Mitchell is small, but I'm cautiously optimistic. If he flourishes, he could become our number 2 wide receiver. Then Skip to my true says, get Mac Jones, please. I actually think Mac Jones is on the radar. I think, again, we are not drafting the quarterback next year. I think we're building the roster, giving Muji and Glenn another bite at the apple, another year in terms of getting more talent on the roster, developing that talent, building that culture. That's why I say I think the draft picks are going to be on the line in the secondary, right? I think we'll see what we do on the offensive line if we bring back our own, if we make a splash in free agency there. And then I do think it's going to be a kind of bridge type quarterback. I do not want Kyler Murray. I do think Mac Jones is the kind of guy that we could be talking about. But there is plenty of time to talk about that on Sunday. We've got the Finns in town, big time rival. And remember, this is in December now. They're coming up north. A kind of game that Miami historically does not play well in, and it is not a good matchup for them against our run offense. Bet the Breece Hall props. That's what I'm saying going into this week against the Dolphins. We'll see what happens. One thing you know, I'll be here to talk about it like we do all the time here on Jets Latest. I hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll see what happens on Sunday, and we'll talk about it next week. But for this episode of Jets Latest, we out of here. Peace.